Confucius once said, study the past if you wish to define the future. I think that's a nice way for us to introduce the study of Julius Caesar, and our study is a critical study. We'll talk about what that means in a little while, but we know that Julius Caesar is a play written by William Shakespeare, and we're going to start looking at the intricacies of the play. Once we've read the play and have an understanding of the plot and the narrative, we're going to look for how that play has so much to offer when we're studying the ideas that relate to the context of the society. So drama has the ability to reveal truths, and it can speak when the world is silent. So fiction and fictional stories have the ability to say things that aren't allowed to be said in public, out in the real world. And Shakespeare's plays certainly do this very well. And, you know, in the 1600s, you know, Shakespeare had that luxury to create a story and have some little, telling observations about society, and you know, because he was a popular playwright, because he was writing a fictional story, he was not arrested or imprisoned as a result. Now, we want to talk about the fact that there are three different types of plays, or genres, three styles that Shakespeare wrote in: comedies, tragedies and histories. And obviously that Julius Caesar is a history play, and what Shakespeare does is he tells the story of Julius Caesar as a way of commenting on the Elizabethan society. And when we start to look at that, you know, at the time the play was written, Queen Elizabeth I was the reigning monarch. She had been on the throne for about 40 years, and it was coming to, you know, she was getting pretty old, so there was a lot of talk of who would succeed Elizabeth, because she didn't have any children, and that caused a bit of instability and a bit of uncertainty and anxiety in the populace. And we will look at some of the laws that were introduced that forbade talking about succession in public. Along with that, you know, at this point in time, when she did die, with the imminent, you know, with the, what am I trying to say? With the end of her reign, it did allow for a discussion and people to question the benefits of a monarchy or this idea of a republic. And certainly when we look at Julius Caesar, that play explores those type of things. The other thing too is that Queen Elizabeth was not Catholic. She maintained her father's dislocation from the Catholic Church. He created the Church of England, and we know he did that to be able to divorce his wife, but Elizabeth maintained that, and so there was a lot of pressure, and there was a lot of there were many people within England and outside England who were looking at this as an opportunity to restore Catholicism to the English nation. So what Shakespeare does is he explores the issues that are current in Elizabethan society through the fictional lens of ancient Rome. So we're not meant to see Shakespeare's telling of the story of Julius Caesar as history. It's not truth. You'll find that there are lots of things in there that are questionable, that historians would debate. But we're not concerned with that at all. We're looking at this as a narrative, as a fictional story, and how it enables us to draw parallels to the things that were going on in society. So we need to know some terms for our study, so for our unit of work. Obviously we will talk about what a critical study is and how it differs from a close study soon. A big term is textual integrity, and we talk about this a lot and people overcomplicate it. But essentially, textual integrity refers to all the parts, all the little things that Shakespeare puts into the play that provide integrity for the text to make it a quality work. And essentially, it's not one main thing or a number of things that create the brilliance of his work. It's the culmination of all the devices that he uses that provides an integrity for the text, and that enables it to endure time and why it's relevant to us today. I've got the term representation there. So we're going to look at characters and we're going to see how they act as a representation of an idea. They stand as the embodiment of particular ideas and values. And so that's where one thing will represent another. We're obviously talking about the genre of historical drama, the history play, and rhetoric is a big component of our study. And rhetoric is the art of persuasion through the use of language. So we're going to look at some orations, some big speeches that occur in the play, and look at how they are used to persuade the audience or the crowd in ancient Rome. And then obviously we're going to move into a whole range of dramatic terms that are relevant to Shakespeare's plays, and I've put a couple up here. Soliloquy, monologue. So we know that a monologue is a long speech given on stage with other characters around and they're participating in the action. A soliloquy generally is when a character is on stage alone and is expressing his or her thoughts to the audience. Hubris, self-pride, is a common convention of a tragic hero. Hamartia, that idea of a fatal flaw, that there's some weakness in a character. Catharsis, that emotional release. We can look at things like symbolism. So we can look at, and it could be, we could say imagery as well, that colours can be symbolic of things. So the colour purple is associated or symbolic of royalty. And so we can look at things like these in the play. Now it's important for us to understand what a critical study is, and let's just talk about what a close study is. So if we perform a close study on a text, we'll read the play and we'll look at the themes that are relevant in the play and say, this play is about whatever it might be, and talk about how the characters provide that function. So you're pretty much inside the text and you're exploring that way. To become a critical study, what you're doing is you're stepping out of the text and you're saying that the action in this play and the content of the play enables us to look broader than that, and that see that this text plays a greater function in providing a social commentary, and it might be on leadership, for example, and that the characters that Shakespeare has used characterisation to represent broader ideals, and we can look at, well, that's the sort of thing we'll be looking at. So what is really important is that you develop a critical voice. And what some people think a critical voice means is that you read some articles and you grab a couple little quotes from some critics and you drop them into your essay. And a lot of people do that very poorly. They just drop them in and they don't really use them, and so they don't really provide any sort of critical voice. What a critical voice is an informed personal understanding, and you don't get that from just grabbing a couple of words from a critic and dropping it into a quote. What you do is that you'll read the play and you'll watch a performance of it, because once a director takes the written text and puts on a performance, they make decisions and they have a particular sort of focus on how they're presenting that play, and so that is an interpretation of the play that you're seeing and how you respond to that. You will read some articles and get some ideas from there, and certainly there'll be class discussion as well, that people are discussing their ideas, and all of those things come together to provide you with your own informed personal understanding. So it's not necessary for you to have 3 quotes from critics in every body paragraph to have a critical essay and to have a critical voice. It's much better for you to really show your personal understanding. And you can do that as a starting point through this idea of drama having the capacity to invite conversations concerning leadership, that fiction has the ability to provide a platform to those type of things. What that does, you're stepping out of the text and you're saying, this is the function of Shakespearean drama, the history plays. When you're talking about those sort of things, you are engaging in the critical study. From here, we have to look at what was going on in Elizabethan England at the time in a bit greater detail, and then that will allow us to then move into start reading the play and be looking for those connections.